Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I actually may upload another playthrough after this, if I can do it. I am not sure. Also, I am currently dressed like trash, so I apologize for that. And my hair has gone gray. It's actually been gray since I've been like 25, but I usually dye it. But, all in all, I am doing pretty well. The subject of this video, however, is going to be different than normal, in which, I usually play a video game, or talk about a game. I'm going to be diving a little deeper into the disability I have, and giving information on that, because I'm sure some people log into my channel, and they wonder, what's wrong with this dude? He doesn't look quite right. I mean, that has nothing to do with my disability. I just don't look quite right. But, I think to a lot of people, it's pretty apparent that I do have a disability. But they may not know what that is. So, I'll get into it a bit more very shortly, because there are several different types of this disorder that I was born with. But what I have is Osteogenesis Imperfecta. As you can see up here, I have the good old Wikipedia page, which says that OI, also known as brittle bone disease, is a group of genetic disorders that mainly affect the bones. It results in bones that break easily. The range of symptoms may be mild to severe. Symptoms found in various types of OI include a blue tinge to the whites of the eyes, which is known as sclera, short stature, loose joints, hearing loss, breathing problems, and problems with teeth. As you can see, I should not ever be a narrator because I cannot talk. Potentially life-threatening complications include cervical artery dissection and aortic dissection. Alright. So I could go on and read more of this glorious Wikius page to you. I think I just called it Wikius. Glorious Wikius. But I don't need to do that. Just to say it plainly, my disorder stems from a lack of connective tissue and a lack of collagen. Now, when I tell people that I have brittle bones and my bones break easily, I often get a lot of, well, why don't you drink milk or take a calcium supplement? But it really has nothing to do with calcium, and I think doctors have proven over time that, even taking a calcium supplement for someone who has OI is pretty much pointless. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to go into my story, my own personal story, just a little bit, and I hope you find this video informative and maybe entertaining, and I'm going to keep it short, or as short as possible, because I know people don't like long-ass videos. Okay, so, let's go. Alright guys, so once upon a time in a small town in Washington State, I was born at 2 in the morning. It was May 14th, 1984, and I guess labor was real fun, as labor typically is quite fun. Anyway, when I was born, I came out not crying. Now, this is not too uncommon. Some babies have trouble catching their breath after being born. But I did not seem quite right. Not only was I not breathing and purple, my limbs were very short, or at least seemed out of proportion with my body. So my legs were shorter than they should have been. My arms were shorter than they should have been. Now, I had been looked at in an ultrasound before this, but doctors did not see anything wrong. So when I was born, it was a bit of a surprise. So with that said, I was not breathing. They took me back. They did the thing that they do to babies to get them to breathe, like slap them around or something. I don't know. I just made that up, but they probably do that. And I was breathing. But the doctors took me away for a while, and my mom was wondering what was going on. And when they finally brought me back, they told her that something was definitely wrong, and to take me home and to be very careful, and they would get back to her. So, I was taken home, I think, the next day, or whenever they let babies go home. I wasn't held at any odd length of time because I was breathing on my own fine after they got me breathing. But my mom did eventually get a call from my doctor telling her that I had osteogenesis type 2. Now, osteogenesis type 2 is really the worst form of osteogenesis you can get. Alright guys, so according to the all-knowing and magical Wikipedia page, the collagen in type 2 OI, or osteogenesis imperfecta, is fatally defective at its C terminus. Now, we all know what that means, right guys? Most cases result in death shortly after birth, or within the first year of life due to respiratory failure. In many cases, the newborn already has broken bones at the time of birth. Type 2 infants also exhibit extremely severe respiratory problems and have severely deformed bones. 60% of infants die less than 24 hours after being born, and survival after the first year is extremely unlikely and normally requires mechanical ventilation. In the rare case of infants who survive their first year, severe developmental and motor delays are seen. Neither of the two infants studied in 2019, both aged around 2 years old, had achieved head control, and both required a ventilator to breathe. Type 2 is also known as the lethal perinatal form of OI, and it's not compatible with survival into adulthood. So all in all, it's a terrible thing. I think it's more rarely diagnosed, but it's one of those diagnoses you don't want. Of course, you always want your baby to be healthy, but to get a diagnosis like that is probably, I would think, to be one of the scariest and maybe most tragic things a mother would have to go through or hear. Luckily for me, my doctor was wrong.
Oopsie poopsie!
He told my mother that I would live to maybe 6 months if I was lucky, but I would be dead after that. So she basically said, really treasure every moment you have because you're not going to have many. and that was about it, So there was that. And I think there's a reason that I was misdiagnosed. By the way, I have type 3, and we will go over that in a minute of what type 3 is. But I did have some of the hallmark signs of type 2, and also back in 1984, they didn't really have a lot of information on osteogenesis imperfecta. I think the OI Foundation was around back then, but it was just something that the average doctor was not well informed in. But I think the reason that they really thought that I did have OI part 2 is that I was born with many, many broken bones. Probably the breathing part in the beginning too. When I was born, the doctors gave me a concussion trying to get me out. I had broken ribs. I had broken arms. And I was basically just a little undersized, shattered baby. Obviously that has changed, as now I am a big, fat, only partially shattered baby. I know, I really shouldn't make fat jokes about myself, but come on, it's about myself. It's allowed, right? So as I was saying, I did not have type 2, I actually had type 3, according to Wikipedia. Type 3 is where collagen quality is sufficient, but it's not high enough quality. Bones fracture easily, sometimes even before birth, Yes, I had broken bones after birth, so it wouldn't be surprised me. It would not surprise me if I had broken bones in the womb. There is bone deformity, often severe. So this is something you will often see commonly in people with OI of various types, but not all of them. And that is what I said is bone deformity. Now mine is not too bad. I don't know if you can see it, but my arm's a little bit messed up. It's a little bit bent. It's the same on my other arm. I've got a little bit of bends going on in my legs. And what I discovered personally was that these deformities would mainly come about after I broke a bone. So I would break a bone, they would cast it, and when it would come out of the cast, there would be deformity, there would be bowing. So I don't know if that's the cause of the disability itself, or them just not setting the bone and straightening it. Now, I know there are procedures where they can straighten the bones in children with OI, but it's not a fun process, and I actually opted out. I was given the personal decision, even as a child, that if I wanted to do it later in life I could, but I decided not to, because what they do is they break all your bones open, they put rods in them, and then they hope that it straightens your bones. After that, when you start growing more and getting bigger and your bones get bigger, they have to do it again. And it just seems like a nightmare of a surgery type thing. So I was like, no, you know what? If I have a little bit of deformity going on, I don't care. And that's where I'm at on that one. Moving on, there are also respiratory problems possible. Everyone loves that. There is short stature, spinal curvature, and sometimes barrel-shaped rib cage, which I do indeed have. There is a triangular face and loose joints, double jointed. Alright, so I don't know about the whole triangle face thing. I've heard that a lot. I've also heard that a lot of people with OI seem to resemble each other. That is something I have noticed that some do often look alike. I don't really see it with me, but then maybe that's just my own personal bias, or I'm just, delusional. I have been told by people, hey, you look like this one dude that I know that's in a wheelchair, who also apparently has OI. So, I don't know, maybe I have a triangle face. Is that like triangle pyramid head? I don't know, I was trying to make that cool. I tried to make a joke. I tried to make a joke and I failed. Anyway, the next one on the list was loose joints, and I do have some loose joints. A long time ago, I could bend my arm way back and, up over my head backwards. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old. I have a double-jointed thumb, which it bends way back. I don't know if you can tell. It looks like I'm breaking my thumb. I don't know. I used to gross people out when I was a kid and trick them and make them think that they broke my thumb because I was a horrible child. So that was fun. Anyway. Moving on down the list, there is poor muscle tone in arms and legs. I don't know about that for me. I feel like my muscles are alright. Not bad for, my condition. I'm pretty strong, actually, in the legs. I'm usually pretty strong in the arms, all things considered, until I break them. And then there is early loss of hearing. I do not have that. And discoloration of the sclera, which means the whites of the eyes are blue. Alright guys, so that one to me is probably the craziest possible side effect or whatever of having OI type 2. I've seen pictures of it where the eyes are blue, but I do not have it. It's a very rare thing. I think it's rare even with type 2 OI. I once got a new doctor who asked me, he's like, oh, do you have blue sclera? Because he was really excited to see someone with it, and he brought in a whole group of doctors, and they were all looking at my eyes, and then they were disappointed. They're like, we don't see any blue, and I'm like, that's because there is none. So, that was tragic. But it's interesting. I wonder what the hell would cause that. Why would the whites of your eyes be blue? Mine are whites. Thank God. Alright, so I think this section of the story is over with. Let's go to the next part. Alright, so I'm trying not to make this video too long, but the first part was essentially about my birth and diagnosis. So hopefully by now, if you did watch this and you follow me at all, and you didn't know, now you know what my condition is. In this next segment, as you saw, that little fancy pop-up, or maybe not even fancy, the pop-up text, I'm going to go over just growing up with it. I'm going to keep this part a lot shorter than the other part, because I don't think I have a whole lot to say. But what I will say is that growing up with OI was definitely tough. For me, I would break a bone every couple months, if not more than that. When you think about breaking a bone, you think about a serious traumatic event like a car crash or, I don't know, a skiing accident or, you know, a big fall. But for me to break a bone, it would take nearly nothing. Back when I was a kid, I was playing with a friend with like some toy car and we were rolling it back and forth. And he rolled it back to me a little too hard and it broke my leg. Just hitting into it. Another time I decided I should arm wrestle someone. Because I was really stupid as a kid. And needless to say, they won. By literally bending my arm backwards. But, you know, it would take even smaller things like that. Like, I would cough sometimes too much. And I would break ribs. Or another thing that was a real pain in the ass was if I would break one arm, for instance, I would overuse the other arm. And then I would end up breaking that arm. So I would have, at one point, 2 broken arms. But as a kid, when you get broken bones, you tend to deal with them a little easier than someone who is older, I think. They seem to heal a lot quicker. Once I got to about 18 years old, I really stopped breaking bones, unless I did something stupid.
You okay, man?
Yeah. Which would, you know, be like get drunk and tip over in a ditch or drive off a curb or fall out of bed. Like, I would really have to do something. But as a kid, I could just bump my arm on the wall and I would hear a snap and it would be broken. But you know what? I think I dealt with it pretty well. And it didn't really affect me too much in that weird regard. I think the worst broken bone I've ever had, and I've had it a few times, is a femur bone. That is the absolute worst pain, I think, that anyone can ever feel. Now, I don't know that because I haven't felt everyone's pain, but my God, it hurts. It leaves you breathless. The one time I broke my femur when I was older, and it literally knocked me out momentarily. I remember waking up in the ambulance. It is the absolute worst agony you can think of. They have to really amp you up on pain meds to even just dull it enough that you can, like, live. And then on top of that, it takes a long time to heal. And you also often get muscle spasms at night, so whenever you drift to sleep, it will shake like that, and it will hurt like hell. So, yeah. Also, one thing I'll say about that is the treatments for broken bones back then have changed so much, at least around here. When I was a kid, every time I broke something, they would put a hard cement-like cast on, and it would stay on for, 2 months, and it would be heavy as hell, and it would be itchy, and it would suck, and then they'd saw it off, and my arm would be weak, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. I think the femur casts were the worst because they would actually put you in a body cast. They would wrap the stuff, the plaster or whatever, around your legs, around your whole body, and they would actually bring it down, the broken leg, all the way down to your ankle, and then they would wrap part of your other leg. You literally could not sit or move or do anything. I think they called it a spica cast, and those memories were probably the worst that I could ever think of. Now, more recently, I broke my femur, and they did not do that. It was still painful, but they did not do that at all. They actually put me in a hospital bed. They made a temporary brace, which I could take on and off. So within 2 weeks, it was already healing, and I was able to move it a bit, and it didn't weaken as much, and I was up doing things much, much quicker than the times when I was in a spica cast. All right. One other thing I wanted to talk about was my social life growing up. I know a lot of people talk about, who are disabled, talking about having like a miserable social life. They were always picked on, bullied, treated like shit, and I never had that. I literally have never experienced that. And I'm not downplaying any of this, and I'm not saying that it's anyone's fault for being bullied. I would never say that. Bullying someone is wrong. But I think the reason that I was not bullied was that I came across as very confident and just kind of did my own thing, and I just never gave a fuck.
Whatever, I do what I want.
Oh, whatever, you ain't tough, ho.
Now, I can't really say where that came from. I wasn't taught that. In actuality, I grew up in a household of, crazy alcoholics who were a total mess. My dad was abusive. He left the house when I was 5 years old, so I had no strong male figure in the family. And I had a strong female figure in the family, but she was also kind of a wreck back then and an alcoholic, so I didn't have a lot of guidance. So maybe that's what made me strong. Maybe I had to take over and be the strong one. But the way it went growing up was that if someone tried to pick on me, if they tried to make fun of me, if they threw a joke at me, I would turn it around on them in some twisted, disgusting, mean way, and all their friends would laugh at them. And that was just a common thing. No one could really bully me because I always had something to say back. I didn't take it, I didn't let it bug me, and it wasn't even a common occurrence because people just knew, this guy's an asshole, don't mess with him.
Catch me outside, how about that?
So I think that worked out for me. I think in some ways maybe I became a little bit of a dick myself, and I regret that. I see people from high school who come up to me sometimes, just randomly, at the Walmart parking lot, because I'm white trash, and they'll come up to me and be like, "Hey, I went to high school with you," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I don't really remember you, but yeah, you probably did," and they'll be like, "You were a dick," and I don't remember that, but I think it was just a self-defense mechanism where it was if I was the dick first, you weren't going to be a dick to me because it wouldn't really work. Because, bullies pick on vulnerable people. And I was not vulnerable. I was an asshole. So, yep, I had a pretty good social life. I had friends. A lot of them were outcasts or goths or nerds. But I had a lot of friends. And high school for me wasn't terrible. I kind of enjoyed it. I kind of miss it. And not a lot of people can say that. So, sweet. Oh, wait, hold on a minute. Alright, so there actually is something funny that I forgot to share with you guys. And I'll do that really quickly. It has to do with my whole school stuff, behavior. So, yeah, I think you might enjoy it. So let's sit down for a minute and have a little story time.
Today's book is called Shh, Bears Sleeping, and it's written by David Martin.
Oh, oh, wrong story. But that does sound pretty interesting and cute. I mean, bears sleeping. Pretty adorable. Yeah. So before I got into high school, at the end of middle school, the whole school had a meeting, at least the principal and the vice principal and some teachers and my aide. And by the way, in school, in high school and elementary school and middle school, I had to have an aide that would follow me around. And they followed me everywhere. And I hated it. And I would try to, lose them and, ditch them. I was an asshole to them, too. I'm sorry. But the funny story is that at the end of middle school, all these teachers and the principal and the vice principal got together with me and my mom because they thought they needed to make a plan for me transitioning into high school because they were truly fearful that my mouth would get me into trouble and that I would end up in a trash can or something. Now, I didn't really take their advice. I think I was probably even a worse asshole in high school. But luckily I did not end up in a trash can or flung down a flight of stairs. So, that's good. Alright, next part. Alright guys, so you know what? I know I said next part, but I think we've about reached the conclusion of this story. If you made it all the way through, I described what I have, and that is osteogenesis. I told you a little bit about what it was like growing up breaking bones and how I had to deal with it. I talked a little bit about my school-like life and how I was a bit of an asshole. And that's really all there is to it. Now here I am, and I'm still alive. I'm 37 years old. I have gray hair. Usually it's red or purple or something. And I'm a pretty happy person. I guess what I want you to take away from this is that for me personally, that while I do have a disability, it does not and has never defined who I am. I know that's different for everyone. Some people embrace their disability and kind of talk about it a lot. For me, I really don't talk about it because I don't think about it. I think that probably goes back to how I was raised. I was raised just like a normal kid, you know what I mean? Like I went to school, I did sleepovers, I hung out with friends, I got into trouble. I did all that shit, and I never really sat there and thought, man, I'm different, or man, I'm disabled. And I think it's something that doesn't even run through my head these days as an adult. Like, I don't get up in the morning and think I'm disabled, or I don't go and do something and think I'm disabled. I'm just me. And I think that's a good way to live. I'm not saying it's the only way to live, and I'm not saying it's the correct way to live, but it's definitely the way I live, and it's how I think have become, and have not become, have always been a pretty happy person, because I don't dwell on anything, everybody's dealt a certain hand, some people worse than others. When I look at my life, I know a lot of people can look at it and think, holy shit, he's had it rough. That sucks. I pity him. I've actually had people tell me they pity me, and I'm just like, no, man. Don't pity me. I don't want your pity. I don't need pity. I don't feel bad about myself. It's just the way I am, and that's all there is to it. I feel like there was something else I was gonna say, and it's kind of slipping my mind. Oh, okay. What I was gonna say is that it's just kind of my own personal philosophy that life can always be worse. So as long as I'm up and breathing and playing video games and doing what I love and hanging out with friends and, living, I'm good, and I know that it could always be worse. I live in America, and America's not great. Not everyone has health care. Not everyone is well off. But things could be a hell of a lot worse for everyone. I can't even imagine living in a country, that doesn't have running water or, that's in a state of constant war. But I think overall, even if our country has problems or we have problems, things can always be worse. So I never really complain. I try not to. Because when I'm complaining, it's just like, oh man, I can't get on Facebook for a while, or oh man, it's going to be tough for me to open the refrigerator door. It's like, look, people have way worse problems, and it doesn't mean your problems aren't significant and don't matter. My problems suck. I hate my problems, but I just always remember that things could be a lot worse, and that I am grateful for who I am and what I've become and just everything. So I guess I'll leave you with those words of probably not so much wisdom. I hope I didn't say anything to piss anyone off. I have a natural knack for that. Speaking my mind, playing devil's advocate, trying to see the other side of things. But I think this topic is pretty black and white. This is just about me. It's just about how I feel and what my life is like. And I thought I would share it with you guys because I know there are some people who see my videos and they gotta be wondering what the hell is wrong with him. So that's what's wrong with me. And by the way, if anyone ever sees me out in public, which you never will, I always encourage them to come up to me and talk to me and ask me questions. Don't just stand there staring. That's annoying. But if you want to come up and ask me any question, I don't care, even if it's a dumb question. By the way, I've had adults come up to me and be like, why don't you have legs? And I'm like, sir, I have legs. They're right there. And they usually just run off in embarrassment. But I would so much rather that. I mean, that's entertaining and funny. Than just someone standing there for 10 minutes. Which I get to, but I don't let that bother me anyway. So that's all for this video. I'm going to be playing a point and click game here soon, maybe tonight. I'm feeling pretty good, so thank you for watching my video. I hope it was informative to a point, and I'll see you soon with more horror games. Peace.